Let's go.
Alrighty, ladies and gents, welcome to episode 9 of the 2PTs 1 podcast with myself and Myles. Hope you've been enjoying them so far. Today we've got a little bit of a different setup. We're both in headphones, so hopefully the audio is a bit clearer. Today we're going to be discussing the importance of tracking calories. For a lot of people, if they're already tracking calories, they're going to know how important it is in regards to actually making progress. But I think there's a couple of things that need to be touched up upon in regards to why not doing it might be hindering your progress. Am I right in saying that?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If I would definitely say in the fact of nutrition plays a massive part in whatever your goals is, whether your goals is weight loss, muscle gain, I don't know, running a 5K, anything regarding fitness, you could argue that nutrition is probably the most important part, shortly under training.
100%. So, I mean, personally, I use MyFitnessPal. I'm guessing you're the same.
Yeah, I use MyFitnessPal.
Yeah. Like, it is literally the easiest system to have in regards to tracking it, being able to access it, and being able to see, like, in regards to what you've got left. And if you are one of them people that does track macronutrient basis. So obviously, if anyone's pretty new to this, I mean, you can pretty much Google this and find that protein is 4 calories per gram, carbs is 4 calories per gram, fat is 9 calories per gram, and alcohol is 7 per gram. So I think it's pretty important. We probably touch a bit more into macronutrient basis as well today, because obviously there is the simple way of tracking where you just track to a certain calorie level, but then there's also macronutrient. Obviously, you can manipulate your calories to obviously what your goal is. So I was researching this for a post tonight actually. So obviously, if it's more of a protein basis, you're obviously going to be going more towards a muscle building sort of focus. But obviously, for the importance of what carbs and fats will have in terms of energy systems, that'll be more towards a performance basis, obviously with protein involved for the recovery aspect.
I would slightly not disagree, but slightly put a different turn on that as well. No, so in generally all base, you should generally have a higher protein diet. First of all, just to recap that. Beforehand, obviously, Michael was talking about alcohol being in that. Alcohol isn't classed as a macronutrient; it's actually a toxin.
Well, yeah, but I was just nailing off calorie wise.
Yeah, but then there's only 3 macronutrients, and alcohol is sometimes can be plot forward into that. But going back into splitting of the macros, kind of bit, you should always kind of have a high protein diet. It has a massive benefit. Obviously, one of them is a high thermo effect, so it's going to burn a little bit more calories to more desired through digestion or anything like that. Obviously, like Mike said, it helps you recover. Obviously, it's also good in the fact that due to its nature of slow digestion, it keeps you fuller for longer. It's a very saturated micronutrients as well. And it tastes good. You're allowed chicken.
And
to say to hinder that as well, there might be variations of depending on what activity you're doing. Let's say if you're doing like weightlifting and stuff like that, you will probably need a higher protein diet due to the fact of muscle building as well. If you're a performance base as well, you are still going to pretty need a high performance. And if you're in weight loss, you're probably going to need even more of a higher protein diet due to the fact of things like protein savings and stuff like that. So, or loss of muscle mass.
Yeah.
So, protein ideally could be classed there as probably the top micronutrients to look at.
I class it as top. I fully class it as top. Like,
Definitely when you say, I know things like clients macronutrients, after calories, you kind of would go look at protein, probably the first thing and stuff like that. But generally, if you're looking for a number or a percentage base of a split, you can kind of roughly kind of go about 50% of your carbohydrates. You probably will go about 20 to 25% of your fats. Women's may be a little bit higher. And obviously, the rest of that should ideally come from your protein, which ideally should be, if you're American, 1 pound of your weight, or should I say 1 grams in one way of ground.
yeah.
Or if you're English like us, 2.2 times your weight in kilograms. And that should give you your daily protein intake.
Obviously, you're timing that by 4 to figure out what gram you want for your protein.
Oh, yeah. So obviously, if you let's say for an individual, let's see myself, who is 75 kg, times that by 2.2 will roughly give me around, quick maths, probably about 150 something, 160. I might horrendously be wrong in that case. Obviously, times that by 4, and that will generally give my kind of split in calories. So to the calculator I go. So 75 times by 2.2. Oh, look at that, 165. That's kind of right. Times that by 4. Now will give me 660 worth of calories in protein. But that's going quite specific, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's like, for a lot of people, I think they misunderstand what breaking down calories will do. And obviously, going back into the actual topic, MyFitnessPal will be able to figure this out for you. Because obviously, if you set it targets, I think for the most basic version, you can give it percentages. So it'll figure out the percentage of what you want, and it'll like give you a rough estimate. But obviously,
but the rough estimate of my protein and stuff like that, and as good as my protein, not my protein. What am I on about? MyFitnessPal. I've not had my morning coffee. The percentages are quite wide and varied and stuff like that. You're not always going to get your macronutrient, so it's very good to obviously to kind of calculate this yourself before putting it onto MyFitnessPal, maybe through a friend, someone who's a little bit more experienced, or even your coach. Your coach ideally should be putting this in perspective for you. But even before that, we kind of should be talking the reasons why we should be tracking our calories and stuff like that before we go into any more specifics.
Yeah. Well, I've made the analogy before of obviously healthy eating. Say if you needed 2,000 calories for your maintenance calories. So for people that don't understand the concept, it's basically where you eat as much as you burn, so no weight will fluctuate. Obviously, it will be dependent on water, etc., etc. Now, if you go into a weight gain phase, you're going to add more calories onto that 2,000. But if you go below to 1,800, you'll be losing. Obviously, also dependent on expenditure, regardless. Now, if you had 2,200 calories worth of broccoli, just because it's broccoli doesn't mean you are losing weight, because potentially for the numbers, that is a weight gaining formula.
Yeah, so a little bit on the exaggeration of that is the fact that when you are tracking your calories and stuff like that, again, my mind has completely gone blank today and stuff like that. I'm not on point, people. I am not on point. I'm going to have to give it back to you at the moment. My mind's gone blank.
That's fine. So I basically just say it in regards to, you need to know what you're actually taking in, because what you might feel is right because you're under the regime of being healthy eating with an extra treat now and again, it might actually be putting you in a position where you're in a weight gaining aspect. So you're actually cheating yourself into thinking that you're actually going to be losing weight purely because you're having salad. where it might not be the actual case. And I think one of the biggest things for people that they neglect is the fact that when they're tracking foods, they don't have to always eat so clean. If they track it and everything's done consistently, you can have good foods and foods that you want, even a little bit of chocolate now and again, because it still fits in.
Yeah, but also as well, the importance of obviously tracking calories is because we massively under-report.
Yeah.
There's actually was a study about this and stuff like that, and he actually found that women under-report the most compared to the two sexes and stuff like that. But we underestimate how much food we actually have. I mean, let's use the picture that everyone uses. Let's say like a spoonful of peanut butter or something like that.
Yeah.
And then let's say the box says 1 serving is 1 teaspoon or something. The amount that you could pick up 1 teaspoon, and it can have a varies of 200 calories. It can be a massive difference. You also could be someone like, for example, like me, who is quite a snacker and not kind of forget to report, but kind of not want to. Like, for example, let's say Easter, which just literally just came and go. Them little buggers and little celebration chockies that you get are never enough for 100 per thing. 100.
Yeah.
And if you have 8, that's pretty enough. If you're a standard meal of, let's say, the average of what is 2,500 calories, that's near enough a quarter of your daily amount. And that is that's not gonna be very saturated and stuff like that.
That's not even a meal.
Yes, exactly. That's 2 meals. But yeah, there are so many benefits and reason why we should be tracking our calories and stuff like that. And for the people who, first of all, say it's excessive, well, you track your money income, don't you, to make sure that you're spending things right, don't you? So if you want to do your weight loss business or your muscle gaining business, you need to kind of do it like it's a financial thing as well. And it doesn't take that much extra time. Yeah, there are other kind of personal things in place like weighing scales and stuff like that. But it's the difference between people who get things right and it's the difference between the people who get things wrong.
Because I think early days when I started my website up, I made a video and I did like a screen recording going through MyFitnessPal, and I think the video itself is less than 10 minutes, and I'm like, I've literally explained as much as I possibly can on MyFitnessPal and how it is to track. But for me, there's realistically 2 ways to track your food. So you either track it as you go or plan your day ahead, which for me is probably the best way of doing it, because if you have a big breakfast and then maybe a snack and you underestimate, like you've just said, the amount of food, and you plan this and you're like, oh my God, I've only got 300 calories to last me the next 10 hours of my day and I've got 2 meals to have, you've screwed yourself over, really. So if you actually sit and just think, oh, I might be having this, I might have this, I might have this, or just leave yourself the space in the day and say, I'm going to have, if there's 1,800 calories, I've got 500, 500, 500, and 300 for a snack, and just space everything out efficiently so that you can actually eat all day and not struggle later on. So I know a lot of people fall victim to that.
Yeah. I think another way of obviously making things a lot easy is meal planning.
Yeah.
I think to add on the whole thing of preparing yourself, just spending a few hours of maybe a week, like Sunday, something like that, dividing your meals is going to make things a lot easier, especially for people, let's say, who have got busy lifestyles in the week, maybe a parent, someone who's not working the traditional 9-to-5 job. But having a bit of time where you can cook your meals even later on in the week and all that, and having food prepared, you can automatically add them kind of calories, and especially if you stay consistent with it, you can cut the meals into MyFitnessPal. So therefore, you know automatically what you can and what you can't have. Another tip that I always say is if you ever go out for, let's say, a meal, a lot of these restaurants now, let's say Nando's, for example, are on MyFitnessPal.
Yeah.
So have a look at the menu online. Pretty enough, every single restaurant has their menu online now. And put it in. Pick what you're going to have. And then don't even look at the menu, because more than likely, if you're hungry and you have a look at the menu, you're going to probably add a starter, or you're probably going to add dessert on it.
Yeah. Just to go back from your first point then as well, I think one of the added benefits of meal planning is the sheer fact that you know exactly what's going in there.
Yeah.
You know, like all the sprays, like you'll have all these meals, like obviously you'll have a ready meal that are healthy ready meals, but obviously if they're in a position where they can be kept for 2 months, they're obviously not that healthy. I feel like if people lived into a diet where the food they ate expired after a week because it was that fresh, their body would thank them.
Yeah, I think, and that's another kind of good analogy you can do. If you think of it like, you've got to think your body as a machine.
Yeah.
Like, if you had a Ferrari, if you bought a Ferrari, you wouldn't put shit fuel in it, would you? So why would you do that to your own body? I mean, it's just mad. Or if you want to build a house, you could have the best architects, you can have the best builders, you can have the best tools for it. But if you haven't got the right bricks or the right cement or the shitty kind of them, then your house isn't going to last that long.
100%.
It's going to be one of those slumber houses and something like that. I don't know. But the best reason why you should be calorie counting and stuff like that, because it gives you more than you can control. Like Mike just said, if you are going out to restaurants and stuff like that very, very frequently, and I only found this out a couple of weeks ago actually, that apparently restaurants give you bigger dishes because the illusion of having a bigger dish makes you eat more. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but it made so much sense. I actually will probably look into a little bit more and stuff like that. But if that's true, one, that's sneaky.
Oh.
But it gives you kind of a clue of, also as well, if they're using bigger dishes, that means the portion sizes could change. They're not weighing your meals out. They're probably getting us 2 scoopfuls of something and then popping it on.
You don't. They will not have a position where they're going to be like, right, let's get this burger, put it on a scale, cook it, weigh it again. Let's make sure we know what's going in it and what the customer's getting. They're just going to literally cook what they can or what they have and chuck it out, and then probably fill the rest of the plate up with salad. So realistically, you're not going to go to a restaurant and scan your food. We're not telling you to go and do that. But give yourself the freedom and the space within your day to allow yourself to do that. Because the thing with calorie counting is you don't have to restrict yourself to a chicken and rice. You can do. But if you're fit, what is it? IIFYM?
Oh, if it fits your macros.
Yeah. So, like, realistically, you can have whatever food you want, but if it fits your macros, everyone's a winner.
Yes. And there's always a pros and cons to that if I fit the macros. So, yes, if you eat 2,500 calories of chocolate and your maintenance is chocolate, you won't gain weight. But will you feel shit afterwards? Probably.
100%. And you will not get any muscle.
And if you're doing these home workouts made by your average Joe, you're going to lose some muscle. But no, saying that as well, nutrition plays a massive part into it. And there's a saying out there saying that abs are made in the kitchen, and that's somewhat right. I always tell my clients that abs are made in the gym, but they're revealed in the kitchen, and it works. Because obviously how your workouts are going to be, the results you're going to get, how sleep is going to be, how good your sex is going to be. That's all going to come from nutrition.
About that aubergine.
That aubergine. That flub. But yeah, it's a lot of these things are going to be affected by nutrition. If you're someone like an athlete, nutrition's going to be your best mate. I mean, they go to a point where they're pushing off meal timing, and obviously they're carb loading. They're obviously surrounding their activities with carbohydrates and then refueling their workouts with protein. there's a lot of elements into this. There's a lot of strategies into nutrition. Yeah, there's a lot of strategies into training and sleeping and other stuff. But the number one thing that they always go back down to, and the number one key factor is nutrition.
Yeah.
So not tracking or not being 100% right with it or close to being is going to throw your results off because you're eyeballing. You can't track progress while eyeballing. You wouldn't track your program like this. You wouldn't go into, and I hope you're doing this. If you go to the gym and you follow a program, you're tracking your results, you're tracking your weight, you're tracking your rest time, you're tracking on how that session felt, and you progress. You take the results and you progress. But if you're not spending the other 23 hours of the day, 16 hours of the day when you're not sleeping, if you're not looking things like your movement and your nutrition, there's a big part that you're missing.
It's super difficult to out-train a bad diet.
Oh, yes. He said it. It's very true. Very true.
100%. Like, unless it's your physical goal to put on weight, if you are eating crap and you're like, oh, I will do an extra 10 minutes on a treadmill, which will literally do fuck all, considering that Myles earlier on said, realistically, 10 minutes on a treadmill, if you burn 10 calories a minute, for that amount of work, you've burnt off a Celebrations chocolate. So don't allow yourself to sit into the situation where you're going to have to fight for calories just so you can eat a chocolate. Whereas if you cued everything else correctly and restricted yourself where you needed to, you wouldn't have to do that extra 10 minutes.
Yeah. And then to add on to that, now MyFitnessPal do something where they add the calories that you've burnt through exercise onto your thing. Now, my number one advice with that is to don't eat it back. Reason why is, so when you make up that total number, that maintenance, that's including the factors of your activity of the day, your general steps in the day, kind of what you're doing in the day, and so on and so on. So when you go and do them gym sessions, when you go and do them extra exercises, the idea of that, especially if it's weight loss, is to create a bigger deficit, a bigger gap between your maintenance and obviously the food that you're eating. Now, sometimes, and most of the time when people first start dieting, the advice is that you keep as much food as you possibly can and you do a little bit more exercise. Now, the reason behind that is that you're creating a bigger deficit through that whilst enjoying more food. But if you're eating back your calories, technically what you're doing is slowly closing up that maintenance. And most of these times, these trackers that we have, these Fitbits, other kind of counters that track your exercising, majority of them are wrong. So you're sometimes overeating.
Hang on, I've got a Fitbit on now and I've just finished work. So I've done just under 19,000 steps and it says that I've burned 3,347 calories.
If you've done 19,000 steps, I ain't going to tell you what I've done. Definitely not even half of that.
Well, I've walked 14.7 kilometers. So I'm going to say that's my 5 kilometers done. Maybe. But yeah, if you're not tracking, you're gonna fall behind. Even if you're bulking, like we've always focused so much now on weight loss from this. If you're bulking and you're eyeballing bulking, you might not be even hitting the numbers to put on weight.
Especially if you're a hard gainer.
You might just be sitting in a maintenance phase all the time, and because you're thinking, oh well, if I'm on a bulk and I want to put on weight, I'm going to drop my expenditure. That's not good. You want to keep moving, regardless of if you're on a bulk or not, just for general health. But if you're not allowing yourself to be in a position where you know you're going to be gaining weight, and you're just going to judge it off a scale, where you could also be having the wrong kind of foods to be bulking. So obviously, if you want to have more of a carb base and keeping your protein high, I don't know how high my protein's going. I'm just eyeballing all of it and just eating as much as I want. You might be trying to put on muscle, but you're actually not giving yourself the best setup to physically build muscle.
So, or you could be putting yourself in a worse place where you could be overindulging.
Yeah.
And because obviously most people now, when they go into a bulk, they dirty bulk. Yeah. And potentially what you could be doing is, yeah, you could be gaining that size that you want and stuff like that. But by the time it comes to beach body mode, you've got probably an extra few months to turn that bit of fat into well, non-existence. But yeah, for me, I like to focus on a lot of things that I can control, and calories is one of them. I think, because I especially now, I've been tracking calories now since I was at the age of 19, so about 6 years now, and I'm weird like that. I quite like getting my scales out after my mum's made me a meal. I've made my meal myself and stuff like that. It's definitely something. It definitely just allows me to put one thing to bed. So when it comes to the point of, let's say it comes to weighing day or measurements day and stuff like that, I know what I've done.
Yeah.
I know if I've done right, I've done wrong. And you're not hitting yourself against a wall. Now, I know that everyone doesn't like weighing. I've got a few clients, not weighing, we're tracking calories. I've got a few clients who just don't like it, end of. They don't like the force of it. Now, on the opposite side, and this is where I'm going to argue, the only time I will argue against tracking calories, is it can cause a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with food. Like Mike just said, if it fits your macros, if it does fit your macros, then you potentially, yes, you could eat 25,000 calories. I'm not only using 25,000 calories as an example. It's not the number you should always be eating. Depends on person to person. But if you're eating 2,000 calories of McDonald's compared to high nutrient food, then you're going to see not food as fuel, which it should be, but food as macronutrients. And we don't eat macronutrients. We eat food.
Yeah.
And what I obviously sense of that is we should be eating food for what is its primary function, to give us fuel, to benefit the body.
And obviously, also another thing is the fact of, like, for anyone out there, it's like, oh, McDonald's is giving me fuel, though. I'm having chicken nuggets and getting lots of protein. It's also in the fact of, you need to remember that there's also micronutrients with the better choices that you will be taking. So obviously all your vitamins and minerals, which come under micronutrients.
And they come from your veg food.
Yeah. Which can also sit into your general calorie intake.
Yeah. And also the thing as well, like eating a healthier diet or tracking a healthier diet, it's going to make things a little bit easier. Let's say you are eating a high protein diet, but you're not getting enough fiber in. Well, you're going to probably have a really bad time then.
Or a block time.
You're going to be next to that toilet all day. So the thing is, it's like there's a lot of things, and a lot of people also as well have a lot of intolerance or bad things, stuff like IBS and stuff like that. And tracking calories can be a good way of finding them foods out, but also knowing your gut a little bit better as well. But going on to a little bit what I was trying to say before about the people who may start developing a bad relationship with food through tracking, and obviously have a little bit of a mental fatigue from it. Then what I ever suggest is, Mike is on the move.
My battery's going low, so ignore me. Carry on.
Is other methods of tracking. So this could be potentially food tracking. Now, as I've explained, food tracking is a little bit eyeballing. But the fact that we're actually taking a physical photo and we can generalize by size makes it a little bit different. Also, as well, if you're getting another eyes on it, let's say us two or something like that, then we can see the common patterns. Now, I'm not saying that I can look at a mashed potato and go 247 calories, because I can't. We, like I said, we may massively underrate when it comes to looking at our eyeballing. But if that will help you stick to your diet, or help you stick to healthier eating habits, then great. 80% is better than 0%. And even though we've just rambled on for the last half an hour about you should be tracking your calories, you should be tracking your calories. But there's not all things benefit you. And if it does cause us more harm than good, there are other alternatives. What we're trying to say is, don't disillude or don't skip the whole thing of tracking, because it's a massive part in what your goals are potentially going to be.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
mode over.
I was gonna say like a little mini analogy on the fact of like, if you wanted to drive somewhere, like a long distance journey, and you wanted to get to this final point, you wouldn't get in your car and just drive immediately. You'd make sure you'd have enough fuel, make sure if you're not stopping, you've got enough water. You'd make all the essential checks before, like, right, okay, we can settle into this and we can get going. In the same respect of, if you had a goal in terms of fitness, you wouldn't just eyeball it all the way through and just hope for the best. You'd make sure all the checks are there first to make sure you can actually achieve the goal.
Yeah, we're a petrol guard. And even though we might not have a petrol guard in our body telling us that we might be low on fuel, but we have some mechanisms that tell us, we feel drowsy, we feel nauseous, we get anxiety, we dehydrated. Now, hydration is a part of your nutrition. You should be tracking it kind of in a way how much hydration is. Now, obviously, water in itself and hydration doesn't add to the calories value unless you're drinking things like soda pop and teas and all that.
Which if you are, you're kind of cheating yourself because you're actually making it harder for yourself. But carry on. Sorry.
It can make a big difference, especially with, let's say, saturation. With feeling full.
Yeah.
Like, if you're now, generally most time you'll probably hear that when you're feeling hungry and stuff like that, you're either hungry or you're dehydrated. So technically, there's two ways we can be feeling full, and that's through the expansion of our stomach and the macronutrients that we put into our stomachs as well. So there's a manipulation we could do there with the food that we track, or the hydration that we track. I say hydration, the fluids. So that's another part we can make things easy. So already in this video, we've pretty much made 3 or 4 statements of how tracking your calories can make dieting or weight gain a little bit easier for you. But you've probably heard that from 10,000 people. The whole thing is going to be we could go on a little bit more and say like all this and all that, and we've been a little bit repetitive because it is very true. But at the same time as well, the only person who can finally make that decision to do it is you. So saying that, then how can we make things easier? How can we make that a little bit more of a habit instead of a case of, let's just say, right, do it? Because if we just tell people to do it, more likely not, they're going to come off this podcast. They're going to go, probably, God, them two are annoying, and then carry on their day. But at the same time as well, if we give them a little bit more easier things to explain, or some easier, simpler systems of how we can, then maybe just one of them steps that makes things one easy, can get the ball rolling, and therefore make things a lot easier.
So for me currently, like, breakfast is pretty much the same thing. I normally have like an omelette and some bagels, but obviously you can make them adjustments and you can eyeball it So if you generally know how many calories you're getting from the big bagels and you're working towards a weight loss goal, why don't you make certain little choices instead of in regards to like getting the thin bagels or looking at the actual oil you're using to cook? So obviously, if you're using an olive oil, which is going to be quite calorie dense, swap your options, and you don't technically need to track it. If you are that monotonous and track your oils as well, that is really good because they are the hidden little calories that you don't expect, which will add up in the end. But the Rome wasn't built in a day. Analogy will come through again, and if you find it a real struggle to track 3 meals a day, start with one. Start with your biggest meal, figure out a rough estimate of what your calorie intake is, and then you can actually just look towards other meals and be like, right, well, I had this and it was 700 calories. This looks a bit smaller and it's more of a protein base, and the fat looks a little bit lower. So this generally for me looks lower in calories. I wonder, is it? Figure that out. Oh, okay. That's another meal sorted. And you can generally tell from the meal portions what you're actually taking in.
Yeah, but then obviously as well, let's just say content, let's say fat content. Fats generally don't have a high volume. Let's say nuts, for example. I think something like 5 almonds is about 190 calories and something like that. So to eyeball it in that kind of way, especially if you're using things like olive oil and things that are very, very high in fat, that could change a difference massively. I definitely agree with the fact with Mike giving consistency is a big part. If you're having same meals and stuff like that, consistency could play a massive part, especially if you don't like tracking calories. Because if you're consistently eating the same, all you can pretty enough do is change the portion size. So you can go, I think that it was something like your fist of it should be your carbohydrates, a small part of it should be your protein, a thumb should be your fats, and a hand worth should be your veggies.
But obviously,
I might be wrong.
I just feel that's really primitive now. Obviously, you're not going to get the same protein intake from a steak as you are with prawns.
No, but I know that's very true. But if they're having a consistent based diet and they're using that system of work, then it's going to somewhat work in their favour. Because if let's say they're having their usual 3 meals, let's say Weetabix with milk, lunches a dairy butty with a crisp and a protein shake. This is not me. And then dinner is your standard Nando's, or I am literally just naming food. This is generally not a diet, and this is definitely not a diet I would recommend.
Do not follow this.
Do not follow my diet.
What?
My lovely diet. But if they're having the consistent main foods and they're changing things about, then by all means, they can go and record from that. But in general, even if you definitely are tracking, I mean that's calorie tracking, photo tracking, or anything like that, being consistent with your food is going to make things a lot easier. A lot easier. And over time, you will kind of develop this kind of eyeballing effect where you can engage how much calories things are. It's not going to be 100% right, but you kind of, when you're a master like me, you'll still get things wrong.
Just to also follow on. Also, just to follow on that, even I mean, right now going in the supermarket isn't the easiest experience, but if you're looking at food options and you're not sure what to have, pretty much everything packed in a supermarket will have nutritional values, and it will also have the macronutrient breakdown. So you can judge and have a look at your options and be like, what do I fancy tonight? Oh, I can have a look at the nutrients as well whilst I'm here and have a judge off that. And then when it comes to later on, if you're short on protein, you know what, I could have some prawns or have a whey. And obviously, even
you love your prawns, don't you?
Yeah, I know. Even just whey though, like whey will have the nutritional values on the tub itself. So if you're short on protein and you've got some calories spare, there's an option. Do you do a little bit of research just to check onto what food you like and how that can fit into your diet to suit what your body requirements are?
And if you're that fussy or you're that lazy not to keep things in check, they've got barcodes. You can scan the barcode to things, and as long as you're looking at things like serving sizes and if it's the whole packet of that, you can gauge that. So we've kind of gone from this conversation of going, you must do this, you must do that, to quite an open face, which is kind of when you kind of go into the deeper side of things of tracking. You can. There are always more than one way to skin a cat, but the most optimal way is being at, as most people say it, that kind of repetitive, putting too much effort into type of tracking.
I know a lot more people now that track calories than I know that don't.
Schools now. I think in schools, I think my little sister, who's year 9 when the school was open, I think they were even learning how to track calories. So it's becoming a thing now where people are realizing that, wait a minute, there's something in this.
There's not. Go on, mate. Sorry, no.
I was saying it just makes things easier. So, in my mind, why would you not want to do something that makes your life a little bit easier? It's like you like to be stressed, but that's another topic for another day.
Yeah. I was literally about to say then, if this many people are doing it, it obviously isn't that complex.
Yeah.
There's not a reason for me to be out here and say you should not check. Obviously, we've given options, but I wouldn't be out here promoting it if I didn't believe that no one could not do it.
Yeah. And obviously, me and both Mike have got clients where they are parents. They do have a busy lifestyle and stuff like that. Yes, obviously, me and Mike are young men. We've not got children of our own. Well, I hope not. But we haven't got responsibilities.
Yeah.
The biggest responsibility I have is obviously my business as well as the flat that I own. So there's a somewhat element to that, but I haven't got another human being or another pet to look after. I haven't got another responsibility in that case. But the statement I'm trying to make is that it can be done with these measurements in place. I've seen it happen. And people sometimes will put excuses in their way in the fear and the fact that it might not work. Or they'll put walls up instead. But like I said, you don't need to dive straight into the ocean. You don't need to. You can take steps by steps, weekly basis. If you track 1 meal a day, it's good. Track 2 meals a day, even better. Track 3, that's even better. Track 4, fantastic. Track 5, if you're having 5 meals a day, you're greedy. But no, most people have 5 meals a day these days and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you're having your recommended 3 meals a day, and you're slowly getting yourself to tracking them, that's better. On a weekly basis, you've increased the likelihood of what you'll know what you're doing and what you can track on by a percentage rate, which therefore makes results a little bit more clearer. And then once you know what the result is, you can adapt, you can improve, and stuff like that.
Under Armour literally made an app for you to do exactly this. Like, people were trying to do this before they even had the app. So Under Armour want you to do this. They want to make this as easy as possible, and they're not even charging you for it. You obviously have a pro version where you have to pay, but you can do. You don't need to. Anyway, on the free option.
Yeah,
it's not rocket.
So go on, Mike. Give them. I love doing these. Give them your top 5 ways of making tracking easier.
Simplify your meals. So obviously you're not chasing down individual items. obviously try and stick to the fists analogy as Miles made. Keep it made it simple. Have it easy to access. If you put it in a really difficult place on your phone, you're not going to be able to find it. Have it front and center, right? Having a meal, bish bash bosh. Have a good scale near you where you cook, so you actually do check. Figure out which way works best for you in regards to actually tracking, whether it is doing it as you go or writing your meals down for a day. And finally, do your research on what you want to eat and how you can fit it into your diet.
Boom. Go on, I'll give mine then. So my top five is easily buy bigger portion meals. So in shops, buy bigger packs. So you got a bigger bulk of food. Eat consistent. So we eat regular meals. What's the staple? Chicken, rice, and spinach. Broccoli. The staple bodybuilder meal. Have your kitchen set up properly. So have things in place. So it's easy to accessible, like Mike just said. Two more tracking.
I know I struggle.
Plan your meals ahead. So if you make meals, for example, if you're making meals for a week, the moment you finish their meals, put them on, and you can copy and paste them onto days. Put them on for every single day, and then for tracking 5, track the things that you probably wouldn't track, so your snacks and stuff like that, and hide them and don't buy them. They would probably be my 5. I will probably come off of this podcast and go, I should have said this. But they're the ones that are top of my head at the moment.
There's a lot. But yeah. I mean, I think me and Miles are fairly confident within this category anyway. So if you do have any questions, obviously just bang us a message. And we're more than happy to help.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a massive topic, as you can see by the length of this podcast. Nutrition is a thing which can be it's very broad.
Yeah.
Nutrition is very, very broad, and there comes a lot of complications as well as a lot of rewards with it and stuff like that. And that is, for most people, generally the training side of things is not the problem. It's generally the nutrition side of things. And that's why it's because people not really want to have the knowledge for it, but people don't know the amount or what they're kind of scaling wise of what they're eating. So, yeah, like Mike said, do your research on it and stuff like that. If it comes to a point where you're asking us questions on a little bit more, or ask your other coach or your other PT, go ahead. Never be afraid to ask. And on saying to that, I will end this here. Have you got anything else to say?
No, just if you can, guys, let us know what you think and drop us a like and subscribe, and we will also see you in the gulag.
Yes. Women, if you know what the gulag is, we're proud of you. Anyway, right. Hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Yes, again, another rant we have on us today. Obviously, we're big things about obviously us. We're both big fans of tracking nutrients. So we have a lot of things to say. Yeah. But as always, guys, hope you guys enjoyed. Like Mike just said, like and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your mum. Share this with your auntie. Share this with your sister and your other relatives. But we'll see you guys in the next podcast. And peace.